Day 24 of getting ready for Algebra 2. In this example, we're going to go ahead and graph the linear inequality. Now again, we want to think about this as a slope-intercept form for a linear equation to be able to graph. Then we'll talk about this inequality symbol. So the first thing is to identify the y-intercept, which is going to be your b. In this case, that is going to be a positive 4. So on my y-axis, I'm going to go up 4 units from my origin. So I'm going to have a y-intercept right here. Now, when you have a slope that looks like there's nothing there, we need to remember we could always put a 1 in front there. But remember, a slope is a comparison, the change in the y values over the change in the x values. So the best thing to do is to rewrite a 1 over 1. Now again, follow me. 1 over 1 is still 1. 1 times x is still x, okay? So this is always there. So that means the change in my y and my x values between any 2 points on this line is going to be a 1 over 1. So I can go up 1 to the right 1, or you could do a negative over a negative. You could go down 1 to the left 1. Now it's important before you just go ahead and graph your line, we need to understand, is this boundary line going to be included or not included? For a linear equation, it's always included, right? That's actually the values that make up our line, right? When it's always equal to. When we have an inequality, we need to understand the difference between less than and less than or equal to. When it's less than or equal to, that means it's going to be a solid line. But if it's just less than or if it's greater than, this is going to be a dashed boundary line. So it's important. Any values that fall actually on this line do not make this inequality true. Now, where should all the other points, though, that we represent that make the inequality true, how do we determine that? Is it above or is it going to be below? The easiest way to do that is to choose a test value that is not on the line. The easiest test value to choose is going to be your origin at 0, 0, as long as it's not on the line. So what we're simply going to do is if this value is going to be true, that means all values, all points that are below this line will also be true. If this test point is false, that means all values are going to be false. That means all the values above the line are going to be true. So let's go and plug in 0, 0, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's not on the line, so it's easy test point. 0 is less than 4. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be true. That means all values that are below this boundary line are going to be true. Now it's on to day 25.